Hey guys, it's Glenn from Glenn'sCarCollection.com, and today I'm going to give you my 3-year ownership review of my 2017 Porsche 911 Carrera. We'll go over what I bought this car for back in 2020, which was a great time to buy. Surprisingly, what it's worth now, how rare is this car, what does it cost to maintain, and if I've had any warranty repairs. If you like these kind of videos, hit the subscribe button, like and share this video so our channel can grow, and always leave a positive comment below. All right, so welcome to my 2017 Porsche Carrera that I bought CPO, certified pre-owned, from a Porsche dealer in May of 2020. When I bought this car, there were so many different kind of 911s, and I should probably do a video on that someday. There's like 20 different kinds, whether you want a base Carrera, an S, a 4S, a GTS, a 4 GTS, a GT3, a GT2, a GT3 RS, a Turbo S, and it goes on, a Carrera T, it goes on from there. So this is a 2017, and I'm going to talk all United States model years. If you live in Canada or Europe, you're going to have calendar years rather than model years. But this car is a 2017 model year, which is the first year of the 991.2 generation. So typically modern Porsche generations, the 997s, the 996s, the 991s, and others, and soon to be for the 992, will have a first generation and a second generation. So the 991, so they haven't been called the 911 since the 80s, right? So we had a 964, 993, 997, 991, and now the newer ones from 2020 on are 992. So this is, if you're not confused yet, this is a 991.2, the second generation of the 991 in 2017, when every car became turbocharged except like the GT3. So now like a turbo is really a trim level because they're all turbocharged. So the 991s are about 2 to 3 inches bigger than a 997. The first 991s were the last generation of the naturally aspirated engine. They came out in model year 2012 and a half to 2016. In 2017, they made the .2 generation, which gave it like Apple CarPlay and gave them a revised motor, a 3-liter flat 6, and now they are all turbocharged. So this car, even though it is just a base Carrera, is just as fast, maybe even faster than my 993 Turbo. I always think the second generation is the generation to buy because the first generation usually sells pretty well because the new 911, whether it's the 997, 991, 992, what have you, and then they make a lot of tweaks, fix any problems, give it more power, better handling for the .2 generations. Typically, by the time the .2 generation comes out, people are waiting for the next generation, so they usually don't sell well. It's at the end of the run, so they're built in limited numbers, and they tend to have a much higher resale value. Like if you look at the 997.2s, I think honestly it's going to be the same for the 991.2s as well. Now, I just wanted this color. I didn't go looking for a base. This Miami blue color is very popular on the GT3s, but on a regular Carrera, whether it's a base, an S, a 4S, only about 3% were made in this color, and about 90% were PDK. Now, how can you tell that this is a base? Well, I just showed you that black brake caliper. So base cars have slightly smaller brakes than the S. They have a black brake caliper unless you option the $8,000 for the ceramic brakes, and then you get a yellow caliper. So if you were looking at a Carrera S, 4S, I got to change those side markers. I have clear side markers. I haven't put them on yet. So if you were buying an S or a 4S or a GTS, you'd have red brake calipers standard. And here's that beautiful 7-speed manual transmission. Yes, 7 speed. So counting reverse, there's actually 8 choices. 5 are to the top, reverse 1, 3, 5, 7, and 3 are at the bottom, 2, 4, and 6. Now, being in 2017, that's the same year as my Panamera Turbo. So the steering wheel is the same, except on the 911, I don't have the multi-function steering wheel, so I don't have the buttons. You just have the holes in the steering wheel. So I don't have a scroll wheel. I have to use the stick down here to go up and down through the navigation and the other menu choices, where on my Panamera has the multi-function steering wheel and you can go up and down. Now let's look at the front trunk. So on the rear drive models like this, so this is a base Carrera, it's not even a 4, so it's a rear drive. You actually have a deeper trunk than the all-wheel drive because you don't have that architecture in the front. And you can actually fit a lot of stuff here. It doesn't have 2 trunks like a Boxster Cayman. The battery is right there and I hardwired it. And it actually is a pretty deep trunk. You have your jack and your safety equipment in these panels there, as well as your wheel lock. So make sure when you buy you have the wheel lock. And then you have some fluid accessible there. You lift that Porsche binder there, undo the snaps, and that's where the battery is. Now in the old 911s, like in my 993 Turbo, used to have an option sticker there where you can look up what the options. They no longer do that. This is an original paint car, clean Carfax, and I bought it CPO from a Porsche dealer. So from a Porsche dealer, the CPO is 2 years unlimited miles, and you get any balance of the 4-year 50,000 mile warranty. Now this car, as most base cars, have optional 20-inch Carrera S wheels. So if you just looked at it, you might think it's Carrera S. I actually have a sunroof. You can actually have a glass sunroof, I believe, which would keep that black up top, but mine has the body color sunroof. Again, I bought it used as probably an option I wouldn't get, but I love the other options here. It's got the sport exhaust, the 20-inch Carrera wheels, the manual transmission, which is a free option, the sport manual seats to make it lighter, and has heated and cooled seats and Apple CarPlay. So believe it or not, 2017 Porsche didn't have Apple CarPlay until then. Now, again, I was looking, I just wanted a Miami Blue manual. It was a very rare car. Whether it was a base GTS 4S, I would have bought anyone I could find. And I found this about 100 miles from my house in Pennsylvania, and actually wind up buying the R8 from the same dealership. So since I bought it in 2020, I basically got this car for a great price. It only had 8,000 miles on it and had 1 year left of the 4-year 50,000 mile warranty, and then 2 years once that expires, as long as you don't hit 50,000 miles, which I wouldn't because it only had 8,000 miles on it. You get the full 24 months of the CPO after that first year expires. So essentially, you get 36 months of warranty. And on the 36th month, of course, a sensor went, and these cars are expensive to fix. It was an O2 sensor, but you had to drop the engine, so it was $2,500, which I didn't have to pay. Now, they were asking $85,000. I made an offer of $75,000 because it was the middle of COVID, and they accepted it. All right, so now let's go on the inside and drive the car. All right, so now we're inside my 2017 Carrera. Now, one of the options is a smoking package, and not that I'm a smoker, but people will run radiator detectors like this because it gives you an outlet right here. Now, the only problem is PDK, that's fine. You could run the wire, but it interferes with the manual transmission. So what I do is there's a side outlet right here. And what I do is I put the plug in there. I have an extender that I use, and that allows me to charge cell phones. It's got USBs. You can have two things plugged in, and then I can run my radar detector on the top there. If you want to use Apple CarPlay, just like my 2017 Panamera, it has to be plugged in here with the USB. Apparently, since I've driven this car, I guess I've gotten a new phone because I have to resync the Apple CarPlay. So 2017 models and up have Apple CarPlay, which are 991.2s. 991.1s don't have Apple CarPlay. So believe it or not, a 2016 Porsche that was 100-something thousand new does not have Apple CarPlay. All right, so we have 20,296 miles on this, and let's take it for a spin. There is no Sport Chrono. Some of the cars, they had Sport Chronos here, or the newer ones have just a clock. My 2017 Panamera, so I think it's on the 991.2s. If you have the Sport Chrono, you get Sport Plus, and you have the dial here like my Panamera does. We can do normal, Sport, Sport Plus, and individual. This does not have that. So on the PDK, like my Panamera, you need that because you won't have launch control without it. I don't think you need it on this car because if you have it on this car, on a manual transmission car, then you have rev matching. I like to rev my own gear, so I'm actually glad this doesn't have the Sport Chrono, though I think you could turn it off and rev match yourself, but I have to rev match every shift. So when we go for this drive, everything that you hear rev matching is me. It's not automatic. If it was a Sport Chrono car, then it would be. All right, so this car gets pretty decent gas mileage too. The gas tank, I think, is a little smaller, around 16 gallons. Most cars are 17.7. Front and center is your tachometer. Now the new ones have all digital gauges, except they kept the tach analog. So what I like about this is you still have analog gauges, and traditionally it goes by 25 on the speedometer, so you always use the tach, and then you can just look at your speed readout there. You can go through the menus here, and that gives you tire pressures. Usually if I do any kind of spirited drive, I keep on tire pressures. Your navigation is here. Your vehicle temperatures are here. What song is on the radio is here. If your phone's plugged in, whose phone's plugged in, and then you get the little navigation as well. Gas is the front right, so you got to remember. So typically I try to get the back if there's two pumps, because if I'm at the first pump, I'm definitely going to block the person on the second pump. Now there's 7 speeds here. I really don't use the 7th gear unless I'm going at least 70 on the highway, because there's really no power in that gear. It's all gas mileage. One thing I'd like to see, since reverse is up and to the left, is the 7th gear down here, because the issue with that is you have 5 forward gears and only 3 rear gears, 2, 4, and 6 on the bottom, reverse 1, 3, 5, 7 up top. I'm going to unplug this because we're not going to be speeding. New radar detector, try to unit in this time. I usually do the Passport or Escort 8500 or the Valentine 1. Electric steering, but there is some heft and feel that you can kind of tell what the tires are doing. I prefer rear engine to front engine. I just love that the way you have traction over those rear tires. So years ago, I used to do track days. I grew up on American cars, always had a Camaro, Z28, Mustang GT, or Corvettes. And then I even had a Z06, and the one car that always escaped me on the track would be the 911s. Coming out of those turns, just the rear weight bias. I would get a faster lap time than them, but I'm like, how come I can't beat them out of the corner? And then I learned with the engine in the back, it was pushing down on the rear tires, and you have a lot of traction. Where I had to feather the gas on my Z06, that driver, the 911, can just go give it gas because he has the traction. And it was a big learning curve going to a Z06, because that's faster, certainly in a straight line, to 911s. But it took me about 3 years of track with my 996 C4S and my 993 Turbo to really nail that rear weight bias, because you have to know how to use it. It's just like anything else. I give you the best pair of ice skates in the world. If you don't know how to skate, you're not going to be a very good hockey player, right? So the same thing, once I learned how to use that rear weight bias, I'm really addicted to 911s, and I've had them since 2006. So though I love the Cayman and Boxster that are mid-engine, once you learn to use that rear weight bias, I think it's 911s or bust. Now I wouldn't mind having the Cayman or Boxster as well, the mid-engine, but if I only could choose one, I would choose the 911. And there's no wrong answer. A Cayman, even a base Cayman, is a phenomenal car. It's actually more practical because you got 2 trunks. The second trunk really in this car would be folding the seats down. I would love at some point to get a wide body, either a 997.2 with the red stripe in the back, because it reminds me of my 996 C4S, or to get a 992, even a base model, because they're all wide bodies. Again, significance of this base model, the 991.2, it's the last base model you can get with a manual transmission. Value today, I bought this for $75 in the middle of COVID. It probably was $80, $85 because of the color being discontinued, and you can't get a manual transmission on a base, and most 911s now, 90% of them are PDKs. I'd say the value is about $90,000 if I was going to sell it. I would not sell it for $90 because I would never get this color, find this color with a manual transmission. I looked forever, and every time Miami Blue came up, unless it was a GT3, which is a whole nother level of performance and price, it was always a PDK car. So I have no plans on selling this car. I'd love to get a 997 or a 992, but I'm not going to sell this to do it. So values today, I say about $90,000. I think in the height in 2021, 2022, whenever we peaked, I would say the height would be $100,000. I still see S's with a manual transmission in a regular sedate color in that 110 range. A base usually sells for about 10K less. Now, it's pretty much of a normal car if you drive it in the regular mode. I'll call it comfort mode. So I press the sport, and with the sport exhaust, it'll give you those cracks, which you just heard. When you let go of the gas, you get those cracks and popples with the sport exhaust. And again, all these rev matches are me with the sport exhaust in sport mode. See, there we go. See, as soon as I let off the gas, you hear those crackles. Handling is great, and this car is so reliable. So I like older cars. My 2005 NSX is crazy reliable as well. But this car, if I had to drive from New Jersey, where I am, to Florida, New Jersey, California, this is the car I'm probably taking. It's still new. It's reliable. I think the older Porsches need a lot of maintenance. I had good vibes with my 993 Turbo. I did a long-term ownership review of that. That car cost me pennies to run because it was such a highly maintained car. look after your car and it'll be reliable. And reliable cars tend to stay reliable. Cars that are basket cases and are almost like project cars because they need so much stuff, it's always going to be that way. Somewhere along the line it was neglected and there's so much deferred maintenance, you'll never really catch up on it. So always buy a good car. So for me, for a Porsche, I would buy CPO almost all the time unless I wanted a specific color and I couldn't find that CPO or the price was crazy high. It'll probably cost you 10K more, 5 to 10K more to get a CPO, but it's worth it. I had one CPO repair and it was $2,500, and you know you get a good car. So you're already starting with a car that has at least 50% of the brakes, at least, newer tires. So and no paint work or little of none paint work, no bad Carfax, no accidents. So I've had really good luck with my Panamera Turbo, which was CPO in this car, which I've had over 3 years, about 3.5 years. April or May will be 4 years, and I put a ton of miles on it, literally zero problems. So CPO isn't to me so much about the warranty. A lot of the CPO is just starting off with a good car. It's most of Porsche trade-ins wouldn't make the cut for CPO, so you know it's a good car without paintwork, without accidents, has good tires and brakes, all the maintenance is up to date when they give it to you, a newer battery, that kind of stuff. I think I have the original battery on this car because it was only 3 years old when I got it. So probably in the spring when I change the oil, I'll probably put in a new battery. Maybe we'll do a video on that. Any questions you have of this car, leave in the comments below and I'll try to answer it on a future video next time I make a video of this car. The ride is very comfortable. There is a suspension mode here where you can stiffen it up. I only do that if I'm really on a visceral drive, a spirited drive, because on these New Jersey terrible roads, it's way too harsh. So if you find some smooth tarmac or I'm taking a very spirited drive, then I'll do that because then you'll feel the difference in handling. But everyday driving, just sport mode, comfort suspension, I think you're good. And it revs to over 7,000 RPM. I usually shift at 7, make sure everything is up, all the fluids are warm before you do that. So just doing this drive, I'm averaging 16 miles per gallon. I'd say you could definitely get 25, 26 on the highway, probably teens around town. This color really stands out. Everybody knows this car. People are always taking a picture when I park it. So it does attract a lot of attention. All right, so any questions, let me know, and I'll do a future video on this. This is our 3-year ownership review. Thanks again for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.